go ahead and jump in. Feel free to pause on those slides. I know, and everybody's got access to this in the chat as well. There is an overview document to our workshop today that has all the links that I'm going to access, and as well as some additional resources that I think that you will find helpful. And as we move forward, I just want to share a couple grounding points. So wear multiple hats as you're going through this workshop with me this afternoon. Think about yourself as an active participant, as a faculty member, as an instructional designer, and how you might put these activities or thoughts or theories in place in your own context. And then also put yourself in the perspective of a student. I do that too, and even I just appreciated now, right, the reminder of how to add a slide, that we're all coming in at different places in terms of where we're feeling comfortable in navigating technology. And so I appreciate that, and just kind of keep that in the back of your mind as you're moving through the workshop with me today. And then again, lastly, we are a big group, so feel free to use the chat box. We want to be as engaging as we can with as many people that are on our workshop here today, knowing that think about and frame this, that if you were in a typical course context, and how would you would use these activities in maybe groups of up to maybe 10, 20, 30, 50, or 100 based on how you are currently teaching. Okay, excellent. Here we go. So here are our objectives for today. We're going to learn and engage in virtual icebreakers and energizers to enhance learning communities. We're at a time right now, and I'm hearing from students as we're gearing up from the fall, they are hungry to see each other. When our semesters, the majority of us, we truncated very quickly. We didn't have time for closure or an opportunity to say goodbye or to wrap up. And so our students are coming back eager for community, eager to step into those relationships. And so as faculty, we play a critical role in thinking about how do we set that tone. And that's why what we do in the first week makes all the difference for how we move forward for the rest of the semester, and how our students are going to engage in the course. If they feel that they are part of a learning community, they're going to be more likely to want to participate in the process and stick with it when the content gets hard. So we're going to talk about steps on how to design successful activities. Originally, we were going to be in person, and we were going to be doing all kinds of things together. So this has pushed me pedagogically and my skill set to think about how can we do this in a virtual environment. So we're going to practice that today. We're going to intentionally gather techniques on how to add creativity to our learning activities, thinking experientially. And so there'll be time at the end of our workshop today where I hope that you share, and feel free to use the chat box to just share activities or ideas that you have found to be extremely successful. And then lastly, like I said, we're going to explore these activities that can be framed to create discussion and engagement to really help us build powerful learning communities with our students. So we've already begun with the snapshot activity, and this is just a standard Google Slides. I think it's a great way to start class, especially in a virtual environment where you want to find out who's present. I like those 3 questions a lot, but you could tailor make your slide or your introductory activity to be whatever you'd like it to be. I think that students would want to give us some indication of how they are feeling at this moment in time, and having an image can really help with that. So before we really jump in here, I want to share one of my favorite quotes from Plato. And he said, "You can discover more about a person in an hour of play than you can in a year of conversation." So I share that with you today as we dive into this workshop, because I know that it's hard to be engaged with hundreds of people sometimes. And it is a Friday afternoon. It is the 3rd day of the summit. We have, some of us might be zoomed out, ready to say enough with my Zoom, but be here and be present. And I like to think of this acronym. Well, it's the PVC, and that stands for And I tell this to my students, you know, think about where do you want to be in this experience? The P stands for a prisoner. Are you feeling like that you are kind of trapped in the moment and I don't want to be here and they made me sign up for this workshop? And I know that's not the case. I know you're here on your own volition, but think about, you know, how your energy and being present. Secondly, the V, that stands for a vacationer. So are you just kind of here hanging out? You know, I know it's Friday, you got your drink. This is water, I'm telling you, it's true. And you're just like, I'm just gonna sit here and not necessarily participate, but this is cool and I'm along for the ride. And then the C is curious. I'm gonna dive in, I wanna participate, I wanna be part of this process. And so I think that sometimes it's fun to be in a place between a vacationer and curious, and just think deeply about how you'd like to participate in the next hour that we have together. Okay, so here we are, the first day of class. And many of us, we think about, you know, what do we do on the first day? So what I'd like you to do is just take a moment and in our chat box, go ahead and just type in, what do you normally do on the first day? Maybe just type that in. Let's start with that question and let's see what folks can come up with. So what does the first day look like for you? And it could be review syllabus, get to know students. It doesn't have to be anything long, but go ahead and share some ideas and let's see what folks are saying here. Excellent. Awesome. Introducing modules, goals, getting to know each other, introducing yourself. Excellent. Going over the syllabus. Excellent. Excellent. Great. Okay, so now let's switch gears, and here's our next question. How do you envision the first day of class looking like this fall? What do you think that's going to look like? So go ahead and take a moment to type into the chat box on that. Awesome. Excellent. Yes, going over tech, even just what I learned at the beginning of our workshop today. Yes, setting expectations, still getting to know you. Internet connection problems, say. Yes, oh my gosh, I know. Somebody said managing nerves. I joked before this workshop, I've presented in front of hundreds of people before, but like I said, never this many in a virtual environment. So I found like my first teacher or my first day nerves were like here before this workshop, which was a really good way, right? It keeps you on your toes, but also as a reminder of just what we're all potentially going to be experiencing when we're really called to do this in a very engaging way. Okay, thank you for that. So I want to share a very quick story. So my background is I'm an experiential educator. I'm an educator by trade. So I currently teach at Weber State University. I teach in the teacher education department, and I also teach in our women and gender studies program. The majority of my career, I was a classroom teacher, and I taught social studies for a very, very long time. And with that, I also found I love being outside. And so I wanted to bring these worlds together of outdoor experiential education and the work I was doing in more of a traditional format. And so I pursued that. And what I found, it could be very powerful when we choose to create what I learned in the world of outdoor ed about building learning communities and community in general was very applicable and critical and important to the work I was doing in just a traditional setting. And so this is just some research support that I want to share. And I've in the overview that I shared with all of you, you'll find just the citations for these as well if you want to access these. You know, and specifically, I love, you know, I look at the bottom bullet, all of these communal interactions in the classroom can create a feeling of we are all in this together when examining complex issues and problems. I would probably assume that the majority of us are going to be navigating complex issues and problems in our classrooms, regardless of our content area, come fall, if we haven't already. I've been teaching this summer, and I just happened to be teaching a diversity and education class at this in this summer time, and it was an incredible experience for me as a facilitator and a faculty member. And so thinking about how can you build community to really help students feel that they are engaged and part of a process. It will help them then be able to make sense of when the content or the issues get hard. So I start and do this in a class by building, setting norms, expectations, and rules. And I like to do this through the use of a full value contract. And I'm just going to pull this up so I can show you this. This is an example that I recently did this summer. And this is just having students, and again, doing this in a virtual format, talking about and here was the task: brainstorm a list of guidelines that will help create an environment where learning is optimized, individuals are valued, and success is achieved. Consider the degree of responsibility for each member of the learning community, for themselves and a community as a whole. So I split them out into breakout rooms, and they had lots of time to discuss this, and then they charted in their groups what they said. From there, we came back together and we discussed, and then at the end of class, and I sent this out at the end of the semester, or sorry, at the end of the, just the next class period. So I took everything that they made and I made this Wordle graphic, and this was our full value contract. And this was evident on our Canvas page. It was evident every time that we had class. And this was from the diversity and education class. And you can see what folks really felt was important that that were grounding for us. Now, I do share there are lots of ways that you can dive in to do these conversations with students. What's most important, if within that first week or that first class or second class, you're talking about those norms and expectations that everyone is accountable for, including me, including us as faculty members, because we are part of that learning community. And what can students expect from us, as well as what can we expect from them? And it being out in the open in a conversation, then there's no secrets. It's very clear what everyone's expectations are, so we can hold each other accountable. And that's what effective learning communities do. All right, let's have some fun. Now, I go back to, it is important to think about bringing an element of fun into our class. And that doesn't mean that it's all unicorns and rainbows and giggles, but we want students to feel relaxed in our classroom space, virtually or in person. They will be more likely to be open to learning. So there are two tools specifically here we're going to practice here with in just a few minutes. And these are tools that I use with my students throughout the semester. I introduce them in the first week because I want them to be comfortable using them. And you're going to see how we're going to use them today is a very non-threatening or a safer way to begin to get to know how to use these applications. And so then I can use them as we move through the course with deeper content, harder issues, harder problems that we need to navigate and unpack. All right, so this first activity that we're going to do is called Flip Your Crib. I have fallen in love with using Flipgrid as a tool this summer to help me bring my discussion posts alive, especially in virtual settings where students need to be able to hear and see each other. Again, that's how we we build relationships and we build trust. So we're going to push Flipgrid. Again, I can see our numbers. We've got a couple hundred of you on the call, so we'll see how this goes. But what I'd like for you to do, and this link here is going to be, I'm going to share it in the chat here in just a few minutes as soon as I give you the directions here, is you're going to visit Flipgrid. And this is our Flipgrid page for our workshop today. And I want you to think about, and this is again, this is if you're comfortable. I will put this caveat here because this is a larger group. When we're working with our classes, we're very mindful of privacy, and we're in a more intimate, smaller groups. So if you're not comfortable putting yourself out there in this way in a large format like this, no worries, but I hope that many of you choose to engage in this platform. So I want to find out in this virtual environment, what's my students' place in space? Where are they working? What does that look like? Because it helps me then be able to support them. So this activity is called Flip My Crib. And I want you to give us a virtual tour of your current crib, of your place and space. And so this is a Flipgrid page that I've created. And what you can see here, this is a video that I've already uploaded. And here is our, what you're gonna do is you're gonna go to this plus button and you're just gonna upload a video. If you can do it through a phone, but then you have to download your app. But if you've got, many of you, I can see your cameras, you can go ahead and it'll take you right there. I'm gonna show you this just real quick. This is the code, but I'm gonna put the link in that'll take you there directly in just a second. And then here is the scan code if any of you if you would like to use that. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna stop sharing here just for a second because I want to give you this link directly right into our chat box. And we're gonna take about five to 6 minutes or so. So you can take a video and walk around, show us your place. In fact, I'll show you here, whoops, hold on one second. I'm gonna share my screen again just to give you a sense. I know you're gonna be working on yours here in a minute, but here is mine, just to give you a sense. Whoops, hang on one second.
Hi everyone, I'm Stephanie Speicher, and I just wanted to flip my crib with you and show you my workspace during COVID and during Course Hero Summit planning. So here you can see, this is pretty low key right now, but there's my dog.
So I share that just to give you that sense of, again, so I'm bringing some sense of who I am to the learning community. The students get to know, maybe I'm an early morning worker. I share that so my students don't get concerned when they get an email from me at 4 a.m., but they also understand I'm in bed at 8:30, right? So I can share my space and place and they get to know who I am. So let's go ahead, we're gonna take just a few minutes and go ahead and let's see if we can get folks adding some videos. It is I'm in Utah, so I'm looking at my time right now. So I guess if I'm looking at California time, it's 2:39. So let's, I will bring us back together in about 5 minutes at the latest. And again, I just want to stress and state that doing these activities in real time with my students, I give more time. I'm trying to jam pack quite a bit in for us in this workshop today. So just keep that in mind. And I hope I'm not elevating your stress level by with a time frame, but we want to be mindful. All right, so enjoy. Feel free to watch as videos come on in here, and we'll take it from there. I'm going to stop sharing for just a sec. Oh, sure. I'll put the QR slide on. I'll go ahead and do that right now. And hang on, and I'll go ahead and I'll leave that on here. Here we go. So definitely, and no rush. I want you to practice using these tools. Because if we practice these now and hopefully in this kind of environment, you'll be more likely after this workshop to use it in your own practice, which is one of my goals, is that you walk out of here with some tangible tools to help you build learning communities and that will hopefully help you in your practice. So take a few moments, enjoy, and we'll come back together formally in about 5 minutes. Give folks some time here. Let's see what we got going on here. Great, right on, Lauren. Great, great to see a video in. And again, I don't know how this is going to go with so many of us on the call, but hopefully you can, I want to introduce you to the tool and you have a chance. It has completely, like I said, completely shifted the way that I engage with my students. They have gotten to know me in a whole different way in a virtual environment than I ever expected using Flipgrid. Great, here's that code again if anybody needs it. Great, hi Mark. Awesome, more videos are coming on in. Fantastic. Now you all will have access to this link even after our workshop. So tonight, after you're sitting down and you had a nice dinner, open up Flipgrid. Get to know faculty from all over the place and who they are, and enjoy going through these videos. Flipgrid is in the process of upgrading tools. They're doing a new rollout actually on August 5th with ways to make it easier, because you can reply to each other's videos and to add new graphics. What I love now is that you can add links. I can add a YouTube link when I'm using this with deep, really purposeful, meaningful course content. I can directly add links to articles that I want students to read, and then they can discuss the article. It's a real fabulous tool. Okay, awesome. Great, we're gonna take just a few more minutes, just give folks time to have fun. Oh my gosh, look at all of you. Yay! Oh my gosh, it's gonna be fun to see who all the cat folks are. So let's have fun. We're continuing to get folks to upload their videos. Look how beautiful, and I can feel your energy. Right on. I'm digging this. And you can see you can add your titles, you can add special links. Really, really special to see how this is taking place. Oh my gosh, I love these. Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay, we're going to take about 2 more minutes and then we'll come back together. And again, I know, we all have our own pace with learning new technology or trying tools, or even in a workshop doing this work. But you can always go back. These will be live and we can continue to make connections with each other. Fantastic. Awesome. Great, 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 great. And so again, you can create prompts however you'd like. Your students can answer a variety of questions. What would you like to know about them as a student to help you really be able to create and tailor a learning experience to help them achieve their goals that they want, as well as what you want for them and the goals for the course. Great, look at these, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So again, we can really get a sense of folks' place and space. I set the time limit on this video. You can set them up to 10 minutes. I think I might have done 2.5 or 3 for all of you. Again, I'm very mindful as I set that, and I introduce this to students because at first they think, oh my gosh. But you know what? In the world in which many of our students thrive and live in Instagram and Facebook Live and stories and social media and YouTube, this is my students have embraced this in a way that I never expected. I never expected. Awesome. So great. I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and I want to be mindful. I don't want to just pick someone, so I'm not going to show anybody's, but you can see how fantastic this can be, and just seeing mine. So at the end of our workshop, definitely take some time and go back through and please watch these. I mean, you can see we've got my temporary office in my home, my crib, not here. We've got Michelle up in Nashville, my little space. These are just so fantastic to see everyone. So we're going to come on back together. You've got access to the Flipgrid. If you didn't get your video in yet, do it. And then again, thinking about how you could use this with your students. They love it. They want to, you know, most of them want to show you their space. Now, I do say that some of our students are navigating situations that they might not be comfortable doing this activity. And so be aware of that and potentially think about how you could structure that to provide students an opportunity to share that with you, and just being sensitive to that. Excellent. Okay, everyone. Let's go ahead and pause there. The next activity that we're going to do together, I think you're going to enjoy as well. It is called My Jam, and it's another tool from Padlet. This one we're going to have an opportunity to engage with each other's posts a little bit more actively. And I have found, again, just like Flipgrid, Padlet has been a great tool for me when I am teaching virtual classes. Because here, I'm going to bump back here for just a minute, that as a teacher educator, I don't know, and I'm not sure how your classes run, but I'm teaching 2.5-hour Zoom classes. I can't, if I am not creating, it's detrimental to everyone. And most importantly, me, because I'm looking out at all those faces via Zoom being like, heavens to bets. I can't keep anybody engaged, right? So you have to think really deeply about how we are structuring our learning. Okay, so, whoops. Oh gosh, you know, there we go. I touched the mouse and there it is. Slippery fingers. Okay, so I have been listening to a lot of music to help me stay focused and to feel like, to feel energized or motivated, or like just in the moment where I need like some tunes to help me out. So what I'd like all of you to do, and I'm going to put this link in our, I'm going to do this right now. Let's go ahead, and then I'm going to put the link in the chat first, and then I'm going to come on back here. Actually, hang on one sec. And then I will finish the directions here. Oops. So let me stop this for a sec. I'm going to put this in the chat box, and that way you all can access this link while I'm giving directions. Okay, great. So just like Flipgrid, you can design Padlet. We could have a whole workshop just on Padlet. But what I want you to do down here at the bottom right of my screen, I'm not sure how it's showing up on yours, I'm probably the same, is this pink or red arrow. Look, I can see somebody's already adding. You'll click on that and you'll see you're going to add a song, and then here you can find a link of what you've been listening to. For me, and I'm about to come clean, I've only admitted this to a couple folks because it's kind of new. So here's mine, and I'm going to play it in a minute. I have fallen in love with K-pop and Blackpink. I can't even put it into words. I'm a blink. And if anybody else out there is, right on, let's go to a show or virtual. So look at what's happening right now. We can see how this is blowing up, and everybody's tunes, right? We can get a sense of, right, who are my students, right? Doing activities like this during that first week, it just helps us know who is in this place and space. So when it gets to the time where I need to design content, or it gets hard, I know who is in my place and space. This is going to become my new Spotify list, folks. I am just so psyched right now, like watching what's happening, and I am just tickled. I am tickled. And in the spirit of Hamilton, it's fun to see how many of you are pulling that up. It's hysterical, right? So here, this is, I'll play this for you real quick. Let's see. Well, let's see if I can get it to play. It keeps moving around. Every time I go to click on it, it moves because everybody's adding new ones, which is awesome. So I'll wait a second. So again, how fantastic. And look at who we are, right? And so you're going to have access to this. This is what folks are finding solace in. This is what is giving folks energy. We need to know that about our students as we're building community. So then, you know, potentially even before class starts, and, you know, maybe Natalie gets on the call or she's in class and I'm like, oh my gosh, Nat, I was listening to Hamilton again. Oh, you know, and it's a way of being able to connect. That 15 seconds that we take to connect with our students in an informal way has incredible payoff for us, because they will then come to us potentially when it gets hard, right? And so please keep that in mind. Please keep that in mind. Okay, so great. We're gonna spend just a few more minutes. This is awesome. And I'm gonna go ahead and let's see if I can find, I'll see if I can click on it as fast as possible here. We've almost been together now just about 45 minutes. And so it's time for a little bit of a stretch break. I know this is good, and that looks in a variety of different ways. I know this might be hard to believe, but back in 1984, I was on my junior high breakdance team. And so I do like to bust a move now and again, even though I hurt my back almost every time I try and do that. So let's go ahead and we're gonna take just a moment here. And I think this is gonna play for me. I'm playing happy because I'm feeling like that. I'm getting everybody's energy right now. Take a moment, move around. Take a few minutes just to move our body. One, again, remember, thinking about what Plato said. If you play, you show that you are willing to be silly and open up in your learning community. Your students will too. And we know brain research tells us that when we take a few minutes to get ourselves moving and stretch a little bit, it's awesome, right? Our students can come back in and they're ready to go. This is not how I like to but it's an and happiness is the truth. Okay? So I challenge all of you right now. Look at everybody. Look at us. What happiness is to you. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Sing. Here come back. Okay. Awesome, everybody. Great. Well, give me all you got and don't hold it back. If I can get to it. Okay, right on. I know we could just do this for the rest of the workshop. Thank you all for participating in that. That was absolutely fantastic. Okay, so you can see, look at the Spotify list we just got, everybody. Imagine to learn, I know I joke around actually that if I didn't, I'm almost 50 and I know probably all of us are different ages on this call. I've got 2 teenagers in my home, and if it wasn't for them and the fact that I teach 18-year-olds every fall, I would be a complete mess in terms of pop culture. So use it as an opportunity to have your students share what they're listening to. You can build those connections, right? All of these informal opportunities help us build community. And I'm going to say it again, because when the going gets tough, when we have a community, it makes it much easier to make sense of the hard things and the hard work. And we are in the midst of a lot of hard work right now. Okay, I'm going to leave my jam for now, and that was awesome. Continue to have fun with that, and we will we'll take it from there. Okay, let's see how this is going to go. We're going to have some fun. We're going to do another activity here, and it'll give us an opportunity to use some Zoom polls, which is great for me. And I want to share as a side, in the beginning of the workshop when we talked about wearing multiple hats, that we want to, I have been a student in more ways than one since COVID. I think since March 1st, I have really tried to engage myself in learning as much as possible. So I'm trying new skills, and I push you to do that in any way possible with different tools. Your students are going to be forgiving just as much as you all are being willing today. Okay, so how many of you, and if you remember, we played Family Feud, and it's still on, I think. Steve Harvey, my kids have been watching the reruns on our TV during COVID. So we're gonna play a game of Family Feud. Now, in the overview that I gave you is a PowerPoint that you can tweak and use at your own leisure to create. This is just, again, this is a very low risk, low consequence Family Feud with some games that is, with some questions that are gonna really help us as faculty. All right, so I'm going to get this going. And then in a minute, I should be able to pull up the poll while I'm sharing as well. So let's give this a shot. And I know some folks are still doing their Padlet, but here we go, folks. You can tell I'm into the tunes lately. Okay, here we go. Okay, here's our first question. Get ready, everybody. All right, our first question. Here's our first one. What is the one thing students are most likely to forget to bring to class? And I'm going to launch it, and here it comes. So what do you think? What is the one thing students are most likely to forget to bring to class? Okay, we got folks chiming in. Awesome. Here come the responses. Right on. Okay, we're going to give it another minute because I can see we're almost there. Right on. Okay, I'm going to close this question. There we go. Okay, and I'm not going to share the results in our results yet, but they completely match what the answers are. So let's take a look. Our first, whoops, let me minimize this. I'm learning as we go here. Here we go. Whoops. Our first one, and it matched what we had on our poll, something to write with. Our second one, they forget homework and assignments. Third most likely, and these numbers in here, this is from the original, I took this off of Faculty Family Feud, so these aren't necessarily our numbers, but I'm going to show you ours in just a minute. Textbook, laptop, Chromebook, or device. They won't have that excuse, I guess, if we're online now. And then a calculator, okay, which many of them now don't necessarily need in the spirit of that. Okay, here's what we had. Here's our responses. So something to write with, homework, textbook. Yeah, and everybody was like, nobody's gonna forget their device, right? Okay, right on. Okay, great. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna pull up. I'm learning my poll skills here. Here we go. Okay. Okay, here comes our next question. Question 2. And I'm gonna start our poll. And here it is, I'm gonna launch it. What is the most common excuse when students don't complete assignments? Is it they forgot? No time, too busy. Sports, practice, or activities? Work or my job? What assignment was that? So let's see what folks say, and we'll take it from there. Awesome, and they're coming on in. Here come our results. They're charting on in. Excellent. Great, awesome. Okay, I'm gonna end this one and just show you these results, and then I'll show you ours. Okay, well, here's ours. So you, whoops. Yep, so we've got forgot, no time, too busy, sports, work, job. What assignment was that? Let's see what the, whoops. Oh my goodness, okay. Oops, there we go. Oh. Awesome, forgot, number 1 answer. I just forgot. Second answer, no time, too busy. Third, sports, practice, activities. Fourth, work or job. And then what assignment? So that's good to know that most of them, and the least response answer in this poll was, at least they know of the assignment. They might have not done it or they forgot about it, but at least they knew about it. Okay, here we go. Here's our last question. Now again, for the spirit of our time today and our kind of interaction that we have with the amount of folks that are in our workshop, I'm pretty mindful of this. So we've got our third question, and I'm gonna go ahead and launch our whoops, let me launch our poll here. Hang on one second. And here it comes. So how is a professor most likely, whoops, oh goodness, oh gosh, to complete this sentence? There we go. You can see a couple here. I'm so what? Tired, exhausted, energized, hungry, excited. Awesome. Yeah, and the results are coming on in. And this is originally, this was a little bit of a lighthearted question for us, but in the big picture, this is very real. And we need to keep this in mind for us. Here, I'll go ahead and end this poll. And let me share the results here. Look at where we came in. So of the almost 300 of us on this call right now, in this workshop, we can see the majority based on our numbers here say I'm going to feel exhausted. So keep that in mind for you in terms of what you're going to have to do to take care of yourself, to be present and to be actively engaged in the learning community, knowing that this is what we said, right? But here are, so here's our results. Here we've got tired, exhausted, energized. Sometimes that happens. We hope most of the time, but often there's so much happening right now. Hungry, and then excited. So we can see that as well. Awesome. Great. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing our poll here, and I'm going to exit out of our, that's the end of our Family Feud game here. Oh, whoops, let me show you that. That was fun, actually. This is a, let me come on back to that. Oh, sorry about this. Here we go. Here we are. Sometimes when you have all, oh, I can't, let me just, I'm going to pause what I was going to say and I'll come back to this, is that when we, when we bring that sense of excitement into our place and space with our class and playing a game maybe as simple as Family Feud, it can be very exciting and fun for our students. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that, folks. I had an issue with my screen there. Awesome. Okay, we're all back together here. So again, in the overview, you'll find resources to all of these, and I wanted you to be aware. Also, and I didn't highlight this because I was mindful of our time that we had here. I am more than happy to talk, and if you want, feel free to email me later if you'd like about more Flipgrid examples. I have used them in all my courses this summer. It's been fantastic, outside of just the example that we did here. Okay, excellent. So I'm going to go through a couple other activities that we don't necessarily, we are too big actually to do. And so I wanted to go through these with you so that way you'd be aware of what they are and that you could use them in your particular context. And again, I share thinking about how you would use this in your particular content area, your area of expertise, your area of focus. So this is a storytelling icebreaker, and I like to do this in a couple different ways. You can, as it's written here and the directions on this slide, you can do this very informally. You can also be very specific about the pictures or the stories that you want folks to tell if you want them to be very explicit or direct to your content area. So you can see the instructions here. In advance of the session, prepare some documents or boards. So for example, you can create different boards using different Google Jamboard is an awesome tool to use for this. It's in the Google suite of tools for us to use. And you're going to create with a set of 4 pictures. So you as the faculty member can be really specific about what those pictures are. So again, if you really want them to be engaged in content from the get-go and help them see what the course is going to be about, Be that specific. You might not want to be in for this experience. You can see it says on the training day, but this would be on a training or in class. You can have folks work on those. They look at those pictures together, and they create a narrative about those pictures. Imagine if you gave 4 pictures and you just want to see what they know about your course content. What a wonderful formative assessment that you could utilize in a way where you're also helping build community. And in my opinion, those are win-win moments. When your students are getting to know who they are, building community, and they're also getting a slam dunk in course content, that is just fantastic, fantastic. In fact, I'd even go as far and say that's a bonbon moment. Bonbons are one of my favorite desserts, where you're just like, you're watching what's happening in class and you're like, holy, I can't even, I gotta have a bonbon. This is like gonna throw me over the edge. It's so amazing, right? We all wanna have those bonbon moments. So then you have your students share those stories. And again, you can be very deliberate about what you choose to utilize in that space and place. Okay, awesome. So here is another activity, 3 words. So this is a great warm-up activity and can also be useful to discuss the importance of adapting to changing situations and thinking on one's feet, which is, again, a critical, it's a life skill. We're involved right now in a world where our students are, change is upon us. We are in a watershed moment. And as a previous social studies teacher, I'm excited, but holding on for the ride, because it's going to be wild to see what society looks like on the other side of this. So ask participants to agree on a random topic, or you can connect explicitly to your course or content. Explain that each person should contribute with 3 words to the story, and 3 words only at a time, and they will take turns to contribute. And encourage the participants to say, or your students to say, 3 words that come to their mind. It doesn't matter if it makes sense or not. And then they're just trying to use these words, right? And again, what a fantastic formative assessment that you could use with your students when you want them to really, you want them to start thinking about your course, the content, or using that terminology. Just getting those words and those terms out there can be powerful and set the course for the rest of the semester, as well as you're building community, and that can be a really fantastic tool. Okay, all right, so I am looking at time. I want to share that originally I was given a little bit more extra time than I originally thought for this workshop, and so I am mindful of the time that we have. I want to make sure, just based on our group, we're going to spend about 5 to 10 more minutes engaged with me presenting. And then I would love to open up the chat to questions and I know there's a lot of us on the call, but feel free, we'll have some time at the end. If you have a success story, if you have an idea that you really feel works, that would help us build community, please put it out there, because I think that all of us are in this space because we care deeply about what the first week of class is going to look like, as well as because we want new ideas and to learn from our own community that we have created here at the summit. So another activity that I like to use, or just a strategy that I like to use, is to assign roles. This has been extremely powerful and beneficial in a virtual environment where I'm trying to be aware of engagement. And so you can see you can assign roles during a meeting. I think about it during class. And here are some of the different roles that you can assign. And again, this is a non-exhaustive list. So you can have a cheerleader, somebody that's responsible for keeping the spirits high during the meeting or class, right? This person will enthusiastically cheer on who is speaking. The mover and the shaker. The job is kind of like a traffic cop, but make sure that we're on track, which is important. A shade thrower, and I am mindful about this, that somebody that really likes to play devil's advocate, and that is always an important and a very critical role for us because it brings that other side. And so how do we help that student shine instead of us feeling that maybe it's a hindrance? We might have somebody taking photos throughout. I have a colleague that every time we have a meeting, she's taken a screenshot of us collaborating, and or we're at some, even before COVID, there was always pictures, right? But thinking about how can you document the work that your learning community is doing. Document the process and who these people are. People want to feel part of an experience. And then you could have somebody be a scribe. Now, how I have used these is I will assign these every time that we have a virtual class, and I'll shake it up. So that way folks have a different opportunity to try different roles. What I'd like to do is put it out just in the chat box. What are some other roles that maybe you have assigned to students, or roles that you're thinking of right now that might be beneficial, especially during in light of how we are going to be teaching? So let's just take a minute. Feel free to throw some of those items into the chat box. I'm going to take a look at those as they're coming on in, and then I'll share my screen again. Oh, I love this. Tech geek, timekeeper, six hats de bono, host or co-host, a moderator. Excellent. Yes, yes. Great. Great. These are awesome. These are great. These are great. Awesome. Awesome. So I would challenge you to think about how are we how are we deliberately and strategically and purposely developing community in our classroom space that can really help us then in the future, in future classes and throughout the rest of the term. And you can do that. Again, these are just some examples of that I like to use. Okay, we're going to take just a moment here, and we're going to spend the last time that we have together to answer questions. If anybody would like to share ideas, and what I'd like to ask of all of you is, again, in the chat, this is a great tool for us and great feedback for me. What's one takeaway that you're walking around? We've spent the last hour together. You've had time engaged in lots of different activities, potential tools that you can use, nuggets that folks have written in the chat box. What might be your takeaway? What is your takeaway from the last hour? Go ahead and just throw those, go ahead and put those into the chat box. These are great. These are great. And I will say, you know, we become vulnerable. I feel vulnerable even right now, right? Putting yourself out there, putting ourselves, trying to learn new skills. And we become vulnerable when we try to build community, because we have to put ourselves out there. And I want to leave you with this before we open up to questions and sharing ideas amongst ourselves, or as a large group here, is that our students are always watching us. I say that as I spent, like I said, I was a social studies teacher for a long time, and then I was an elementary school principal for 5 years. And man, those kids watch me every second. They watch me. And our students are watching. They're watching how we are going to be engaging with them. They're going to model how we choose to learn about each other, how we show care. That it isn't, I hope that you're in this workshop because you realize that our work, the content is our passion place, right? Yes, we're faculty, we're researchers, we're driven because we're passionate about a topic, an idea, concepts, content. And we care deeply about the humans that are in our space. We have to show that we care, because our students will then hopefully model that as they are working with each other. And then even more importantly, when they're out there in the world, because we need it right now. I feel like that we're in a time where people are seeking community. We have lost our sense of community. And what is powerful about the movements and the activism that we're seeing happen right now is that there's community embedded in that, right? And that speaks to what people are seeking. So we have incredible opportunity and power. And I mean that in a great way. Power to shift the conversation, to bring community back into the forefront of the work that we do, so our students leave our class not only feeling smarter, which is an awesome thing, but they feel that they are a better human because they spent time with us. So at this time, I am going to stop talking. Feel free, let's go ahead, and I love that we can model joy. You know, we can go ahead and put any questions into the chat box. And also too, I've got some folks here from Course Hero to help me navigate. I know there's like I said, there's 200 and some of us on the call, but if you've got something that you'd like to share, go ahead and unmute and let's roll with it. And I just want to say thank you for spending this time, this precious time with me over the last hour and 15 minutes that we've had together. And I'm grateful that we are in a community together, and that Course Hero provided an opportunity for us to build a community. I will say before, I just want to say one last thing and I'll be quiet, is I don't know about you all, but I logged in on the first day of the workshop or the conference or the summit, and just hearing the music and like just seeing the screen, like the slides, and I had this out of body, like visceral moment where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm at a conference. Like, it felt so good because I had incredible conference presentation plans for the spring and the summer, which were all kibosh, you know. And so I'm just so grateful that all of you are here, because it speaks to the community that we're hungry for, and that helps makes us better. So awesome. So feel free to stick around and we can answer some questions, and feel free to throw anything out there, and I will just keep an eye on questions. And thank you all so much. And I'm here, I'm just going to be silent for a minute while I'm watching the chat, and feel free to unmute your mic if there's anything that you'd like to say. Feel free. And no pressure. Great.
This was fantastic. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Oh,
Love
thank you so much, Etta. I think that's who's speaking. Etta, thank you so much.
Hello, Stephanie. I have a question for you. I am a professor of marketing, and I have a lot of problems with my students who attend my classes of marketing management principles, as they come from everywhere in the College of Business Management, finance, accounting, MIS, and so on. And I would like to know if you could give me, and to all the other professors, some examples of experiential learnings we may add to our courses.
Yes.
Because nowadays, students ask for more experiential learning. They prefer doing anything before trying to understand and learning all the concepts. So I have a lot of concerns with that.
Yeah, Maria, and I think you bring up an excellent question. So thank you for bringing that to the group. And so I'm going to answer this in two phases, I guess. So thinking experientially, we can think very broadly, right? So as I mentioned in the beginning, you know, my foundation in experiential education is in outdoor ed, but that's just one facet. So we can think about service-based learning. We can think about problem-based learning. We can think about how do we structure assignments or activities that students can be engaged experientially, where they are gaining this direct experience. I like to say it like thinking about this when I'm designing learning experiences. How are my students feeling, tasting, smelling this learning experience, right? How am I making this a full body experience? And I think, and again, and Marie, I don't know what you've already done before, so I am mindful, but you could potentially I know problem-based learning, I have colleagues in the College of Business that have found that to be very powerful, where they put a problem on the forefront. And we have a really strong community partnership program on our campus. It's our Center for Community Engaged Learning. And so if I reach out to them ahead of time and say, hey, this is how I want to introduce my course. What's happening in our community? Is there a problem that folks are struggling with or grappling with, or we need to, there's a company or an organization that's really looking to, they need a targeted marketing campaign. And I open class with that. And so it's not even just diving into the content. Now, I will say that we have to be mindful. Sometimes we have to teach a level of content, because then they can't make sense of what else is left to teach, right? So there is a time and a place for just straight up like, hey, you gotta learn these facts, or you gotta learn this data, or you gotta learn this vocabulary, because it's gonna help you then access what comes next. I will share one specific example that I did in the spring, and then we can move on to some other questions. And then Marie, feel free, in that overview is my email. We can definitely start an email conversation. So in the spring, I was teaching a course called The Geopolitics of Gender in our Women and Gender Studies program. And we wanted the students to be engaged. It was a senior level class, and we wanted them to have an experiential experience with the community. And so we created it was a political action project. And so we split the groups, we split our students into small groups. On the very first day of class, we had them talk about what is an issue that you're really passionate about. And then we use that as a place of a starting place where then we could form groups, knowing what their passions were. And then they had to create an actual project or a outreach where they were going to teach the community about an issue, a political issue, to try and energize, activate, motivate, and so on. Well, we started this in January. They had all built connections. They were doing stuff on campus. They were going to be doing going into schools to teach workshops. I mean, and then COVID hit. And we were like, oh my gosh, I was co-teaching this course with another faculty member. We thought, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? They were so engaged and engaged, experiencing what was happening in the community. Well, you know what? Our students rallied. We gave them some guidelines, but they all turned it into online experiences. And so it was really powerful to watch that happen. So I actually, there's I think it's in the overview that I shared with everybody. There's an article from Rebecca Carver that I would highly recommend that everybody read. It's called Putting Experiential Education in Practice, or I'm not looking at it directly, but it was in 1996 from Rebecca Carver. Fantastic. And it really gives a sense about just looking at experiential learning. And I'll just say one other thing, because this is a great nugget. When you're thinking about building experiential activities, or how do I build engagement in my classroom, I want you to think about the ABCs, okay? A stands for agency. How are you, what you're creating and what you're doing in your classroom, how are you building, oh, thank you for sharing that in this chat. How are you building agency? B stands for belonging. So how are you building belonging? And C is competency. When we hit the ABCs in our courses with our students feel agency, belonging, and competent. Another bonbon, there we go. So I share that, and we can continue and talk some more. Okay, we've got about 5 minutes left together. Oh, I see some great, here's I'm gonna read a comment from Christy. And then Zari, I'll be quiet here. I teach persuasion and students choose a social issue, then work in groups to organize a virtual town hall. Oh, I love that. Oh, I love that. Zari, please go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask you, because you said that you're teaching about 2.5 hours in Zoom, and
Yeah.
we are transferring our courses to online, and we're told that we shouldn't really devise a session that is longer than 1 hour, because we lose the student's attention span is not going to be them. We lose their engagement, basically. So what would you say to that, please?
Yes, well, I'll say a couple things. And Debbie, thanks for that note. I appreciate that. That gives us time. One, I am an assistant professor. So I do not have, in full disclosure, I have no control over course scheduling. That is, we have pretty much taken our typical class time and just moved it into Zoom. And I hear what you're saying, and I agree. With that though, I have found that it just forces me to be very strategic in what I'm doing in my classes. So in that 2.5 hours, for example, I will have students presenting. I will present. We will take a really solid 10 to 15 minute break. I'll use Flipgrid, I'll use Padlet. Sometimes I've even had students, I'll say, okay, we're gonna take 15 minutes and I want you to read this article from the New York Times. And then I want you to, and I did this with Padlet a couple weeks ago, I want you to read this article. I want you to write questions that you have as you're reading in Padlet and post it. So that took a good 10 to 15 minutes. And then then we came back in and we were able to make sense of the article together by using the questions that the students asked. I will say I don't know how my department or the university is going to move forward on that. I know that I'm scheduled to teach 2.5 hour classes in the fall again. And so it's really forcing me to be very creative. And in the big picture, and I know this could have just been a random thing, but my last Zoom class that I had that was long, I had 4 students that stayed on after class was over. And and they wanted to keep talking. I was like, hey, I'm all set. But I think that speaks to, I was like, gosh, this is amazing. And I'm loving this and I'm having a teacher moment. But it speaks to what I was saying before. Our students are hungry for each other. They just miss each other. They miss being able to have these kinds of academic conversations for the same reason we enjoy it. And so I think that it just forces us to think deeply. I joke with my friends, I have felt like a first-year teacher all over again this summer. I'm learning how to teach in a whole new way and it's great. But and I will say, Zari, too, it is time consuming. For me to plan a 2.5 hour Zoom class, it's like triple time. It takes me so much time to plan. So
yes, I agree. Yes, I'm trying to do this. So we were told to divide them by synchronous and asynchronous time. So asynchronous could be as a contact hours. I did do a couple of teaching, and it did take more than 2 hours, but I lost the students lost the internet connection, and it was like part of it was like dealing with these problems.
Yes, I agree. And you're right. And that has been one of I will share this, that I have decided for those classes, especially this summer, we were supposed to make 2.5 hours twice a week. I was like, we're not doing that. So we met one night and then it's asynchronous, lots of other stuff happening. So great questions, Ari. Thank you for that.
Thank you for your answer.
Yes. We have a little bit more time. We're going to wrap up here in just a few.
But that depends upon each institution, because at our institution, they revised all of our schedules and everything is in a 2.5 hour block. All of the lectures and the labs. Some of the classes are online, but they are online synchronous for 2.5 hours. So, and when you complain or you say anything about it, they just say, well, be creative. You have to do a lot of things in this. Well, you're creative and you'll know how to do this. So it's going to come to you. But I think that's something that everybody is experiencing all over because of COVID-19 and the need to have some face-to-face and the need to do some things which are asynchronous. So some classes, and it's good to schedule some of the synchronous times, because if everybody is online, students will not know when they can meet, and you won't know when you can meet with them either. I don't like the 2.5 hour slot, But I do like the fact that some of them are synchronous as well as just asynchronous. All of my classes are asynchronous though, but there are some synchronous ones scheduled. And I know people will have a difficult time making sure that they have a variety of activities going on so that they and the students can survive 2.5 hours once a week. That's the only thing. It's just once a week, 2.5 hours.
Yes. Oh, Etta, thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate that. I want to share a couple of the pieces that are in the chat that I want to talk about, and then we'll open up again. We have a few more minutes together here. I was notified, so that's good. And again, feel free to go or whatever your life circumstance looks like. But again, we also build learning community by being very deliberate in how we create space and place for students to connect with each other in these Zoom classes. So for example, Lisa shared with everybody here, I open up the Zoom room 15 minutes early for them to connect without me. I turn off my video, my audio, and assure them that I mute my sound so I'm not listening in. After class, she leaves again and give them 15 minutes to connect privately. I love that, right? Because students would gather in the hall, right? They don't, or outside class, or in the union, or wherever it may be, and they don't necessarily have those places. And so, and then I see someone else, I have to find it in the chat, somebody had talked about office hours. And again, thinking about how you are structuring yourself and making yourself available. I know the learning curve's been high for me on that too, and what format and tools I want to use. I have found that, especially this summer in a virtual environment, when I talk to my students and they hear my voice, especially for something that they're really confused about, it is like they go from like Mach 10, they go right down, because it brings that sense of person and human into the equation. Great, awesome. Any other, oh great, here I'm just gonna read this. We've got office hours. I wonder if we could potentially stay behind for office hours that aren't required, but recorded for anyone who wants to stay behind, or time for homework or discussions. Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be, that's up to you. And again, that's what I mean. The learning curve's been high for me in terms of trying, and I'm talking to faculty. How are you managing that? How are you doing this? Creating spaces online for students to connect informally or formally. These are all great ideas. The more that we front load and we're very thoughtful and deliberate on how we want to build community. And again, I've said this multiple times in this workshop, but especially in light of what's happening in the world around us, it begs us to do so, because our students need it as they are navigating. Every person is navigating these times very differently, and so we want to create spaces where students can share that and bring what's happening to them to the class, and we can help them still be as successful as they can. Great. Any other questions, comments before we wrap up today? Awesome. I'm just taking a look. Great chat. Oh yeah, please.
Is it possible to get a recording of this session?
Irina, can we do that?
Sure, we will provide the recording in a couple of weeks. We will email all the participants as soon as they're ready. So yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Sure.
Great, thank you. Any other? Oh yes, please. Thank you. Somebody was just saying that. I appreciate it. We're all in this together, and looking at all your faces, like I said, I haven't felt this energized. And I said I wasn't going to cry in my workshop yesterday. I'm a little tinderbox, and it's great. My emotions make me remember how I'm human. And I just share that as a women and gender studies professor. Never apologize for your emotion, ever, because our emotions keep us real. So it has just been so great to be part of this experience and be with all of you, because I am missing my community. I really am. So excellent. Well, I will stay on call, and we'll formally end here. I'm going to keep the chat going, and stay on until folks pop off for the next few minutes. Reach out to me. Let's stay in touch. I am passionate about learning communities and passionate about sharing those ideas and passionate about learning from others. So please stay in touch and go out there and change the world. We all make a difference in our own way. Thank you all so much, and I will stay on for any last questions.
Thank you, Stephanie. That was wonderful.
Thank you so much, Irene. I so appreciated your support. Knowing you were in the wings really helped me feel confident.
Yourself.
Well, great. I'm going to stay on here just as folks are kind of peeling off in case anybody has some questions. And if I could ask too, Richard sent me a copy of the chat. I'd love that because there were some great ideas that I'd love to have for the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've saved it so I can email it myself. Yeah,
awesome.
I will.
Oh, I was just going to say, somebody just asked for my email, and I'm going to go ahead and I think it's, I'm going to put it in the chat again. It is also at the very top of this chat is an overview. The second link is an overview document that has the overview of what we talked about today and a bunch of links, as well as my email. So you can reach me there as well. So there it went. Awesome.
Hi, Stephanie. This is Brad Mello. I have an odd technical question because
Sure.
I see those lovely things in your ears that I just got from Apple. And I figured out how they work with my phone, but every time I try to connect them with my computer, it turns on my iTunes and starts blasting my music library. Have you had that happen? Is there something that I have missed in terms of setting those things up? Because I love them and I wish I didn't have to use this thing. But,
yeah, totally. And again, maybe you've tried this, so I don't want to say, but because I manually go between my phone and my laptop, so I actually have to go into my settings on my laptop and manually click. As soon as I put these in, I click that I'm connecting and I want to listen into these through my settings through my Bluetooth setting.
Okay.
And that's where I found, but even like I was on an important call this morning, and oh my gosh, and one of them died, and it goes, and so if you had that and it goes beep, 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 and you're like, oh my gosh, what's happening? And then the other one died, and I was like, and then I couldn't hear what was being said because the sound was switching from this back to the laptop. Brad, you're so right. These, and I'll tell you, for those, there's still some folks on the call, these are the little things that will eat up our time. That is the management, right? That we've got to figure these pieces out as professors and faculty to teach this way, because we miss crucial moments. And so I'm with you. I'm still trying to figure out how to double tap on it, or to like talk to it when I'm out walking and make, oh, I'll tell you what, it's just funny. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for a great session. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for coming. Awesome, folks. Great. Maureen, did you have a great?
Yeah, I'm not sure if this was asked before, but okay, I'm turning my camera on. So
yeah, it's great to see you. Yeah.
Not a problem. So I'm finding out that even with the best of intentions, you plan what you want to do, but then some of your students have serious connectivity issues. So they're on 1 minute, they're off 1 minute, then at least you'll probably put them in a breakout room, and somewhere in the room, how do you try to work with that but still not mess with the flow of the class itself?
That is the $1 million question, Noreen. I'll tell you something. And even just like what happened at the beginning of this session, I don't know if you were in the beginning, and
no, because I got here a little late.
Okay, yeah, no worries. So just, I was having folks do a Google Slides activity, and folks were having issue, like it just like adding a slide, then the directions slide accidentally got deleted by somebody. So, oh my gosh. So then I'm, as the faculty member, I'm like trying to get the directions. I couldn't find them, right? And so those things happen. So I guess a couple things. One, I have already reached out. I'm reaching out to my students before class starts. And I have said, hey, do you need support? How is your connectivity? This is what we're going to be doing. So make sure that you've got this, because our university is providing tools to students if they need it. And I think sometimes the students don't know what our expectations
Ah,
are
okay.
before I actually get in and start teaching. So if I'm doing a ton of stuff with that flip grid and I want to see their face and they don't have a camera or a computer with a camera, I'll say, hey, guess what? You can get a loaner from the university, and that way I can see your face, or it'll make Zooming much easier for you. And then my other thing is, and this is, you probably know this, and this is the real piece, is I just had to come up with stress management because it's going to happen. So instead of me being like, and I think how many are left? 63 are still on here, so I want to be mindful. But instead of being like, oh, and all of a sudden I'm swearing or feeling like I'm sweating and like, oh, because you're gonna lose a student, right? I'm gonna have somebody that doesn't know how to use a tool. I'm gonna have somebody that I had a student, and I talked about this yesterday in my workshop, that was deliberately like knew that when I wasn't in a breakout room and was like kind of not being very kind, and it was in my diversity of education class. So he was like deliberately like saying comments when I wasn't in the Zoom breakout room. So even those kinds of things, right, that I didn't even think I would navigate. So I've had to come up with some tools of like, okay, everybody, we're going to pause for a minute, take 1 minute. I need a minute to get my screen back up and to hit the right check boxes. And then we're going to come back together. Or let's give everybody 5 minutes to reconnect.
Okay.
And I've also, and I don't know if you found this too, sometimes the students get super stressed out when that happens. And then they're amped, and they're like, I can't get on, and am I going to lose credit? And I know what's going to happen to my participation. And so in the beginning of class, I just remind them too, hey, everybody, we're all in this together. For many of us, the learning curve is high. And so take a breath. If you lose connectivity, no worries. When you can, pop me an email. And again, this is comfort, but I do give them myself.
Yeah, well, I give my students my number too.
Yeah, go ahead, Natalie, please.
I also tell my students that I record every session. So if they're, like Noreen said, they lose connectivity, but maybe they can, go to a parking lot of a library and get reconnected. The pieces of the course that they missed, they can rewatch later. So I make it clear that every session is recorded, and if something happens that they miss something, that it's available to them when they do have better connectivity.
Great. Thank you, Natalie, for sharing that. One other tool too, Noreen, Natalie and I are colleagues. And so Natalie, I've talked about phone trees. So maybe students are uncomfortable calling you if they have an issue, but they can call another student. If they're having issues, they can link in with that student and they've got a better relationship. And again, that comes back to this workshop about building community. So if they get dropped, they're not like, oh my gosh, I don't know anybody. I don't know who to call.
Actually, that happened in a class I was teaching because, well, most of them were nursing students that were basically from the same batch. And I couldn't hear a student, and she called another one. And that's how I ended up, hearing from her. So that is true. That works.
It is a lot though. It's a lot for us to navigate.
It is. And one of the things that Natalie just said, which I know I was guilty of, just trying to wrap my mind around transitioning. I didn't remember to record all the time. So I'm going to have to make sure I tell somebody, remind me to record. Plus that, right? Because sometimes I just get caught up into just managing everything, especially if it's like presentations, and I'm just trying to make sure that we can get through the presentations. Yeah. So
and
that's a good suggestion.
Then you have to remember to pause the recording at the break and to restart the recording after the break.
Right.
Yeah. So right. I know.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, everyone, we are at time, and I want to honor everybody's life. If this is where, like, it's a Friday at a conference, we'd all be down at the lounge right now after this, or whatever, or going for a walk, or at the pool, or who knows what. So I just want to thank you all so much. Thank you for being here, being present. Your all things in the chat, sharing ideas, asking questions. I'm so grateful, and stay in touch with me. And I know there's a few more events in the summit, so enjoy the rest of your summit. And I hope our paths cross again. Thank you all so much.